I still remember the sound of her cries. Sharp, urgent, and desperate. The kind of sound no parent ever wants to hear. It was late afternoon when her mother, heart racing, bundled her 9-year-old daughter, Amara, into the car. Her small body trembled under the weight of fever and pain, her tiny hands clutching at her mother's arm as if begging for life itself. Every red light felt like an eternity. Every honk in the city a cruel reminder that time was slipping away. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, we want to thank you for your support, love, and kindness. We wouldn't have come this far without you. Subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue to bring you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city and country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to the story. By the time they reached St. Mark's Hospital, Amara's lips had started turning a pale purple. Her small chest heaved with each labored breath, and her mother's heart felt like it would burst from panic. Nurses and receptionists glanced at them, but instead of urgency, they offered hesitation, a subtle pause that in any other scenario might have gone unnoticed, but in that hallway of bright fluorescent lights, with her daughter's life hanging by a thread, it felt like a wall. "I need help. My daughter, she's very sick," her mother pleaded. A nurse glanced at her, barely meeting her eyes. "You'll have to wait. There are others ahead of you," she said flatly. The words were calm, polite, but they carried an invisible weight. Behind the veneer procedure was a cold, unspoken truth. Amara was black, and in this hospital that had once promised care for all, that fact was silently shaping the urgency or lack thereof of her treatment. The waiting area stretched on endlessly. Mothers held their children, but Amara's mother felt an invisible wall closing around them, a barrier she could not see, yet one that threatened to crush them. Each passing minute was a gamble with life. The receptionist kept glancing down at her computer, typing numbers, shuffling papers, while her daughter's coughs grew more frantic. "Please," she begged again. "She's only 9 years old. She can't breathe properly." The nurse sighed, looking at her badge, then at the clock. "We're busy. You'll have to wait until the next available doctor." And so the minutes ticked by. Each second became a heartbeat of terror. Amara's body grew weaker, her small frame trembling violently under the fever. Her mother's hands shook as she tried to keep her upright, whispering prayers over and over, willing her daughter to hold on. From a distance, another parent noticed them, shaking their head in disbelief. "Why aren't they helping her?" they murmured. But the staff's expression remained neutral, professional. Procedure over life, policy over urgency. The injustice of it all was suffocating. A system designed to protect, to heal, had instead allowed bias to dictate survival. Every child in that waiting room deserved care. Yet here, Amara's very existence seemed to matter less because of her skin. Time stretched. Her breathing worsened, each gasp sounding like it might be the last. Her mother clutched her tiny hand, feeling it growing colder by the second. "Stay with me. Baby, please stay with me," she whispered, tears running down her cheeks. When the doctor finally arrived, it was only because a commotion had drawn attention. Another patient had complained about the delay. By the time the doctor checked Amara's vitals, her heart was faltering. There was no instant fix, no magic cure. The hours lost in hesitation and silence had already done irreversible damage. And in that sterile hospital room, the kind that promised healing but delivered indifference, Amara took her last breath. Her mother's scream echoed down the corridors, shattering the clinical calm, exposing a bitter, bitter truth. Neglect, fueled by racial bias, had stolen a child's life. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. A 9-year-old should never have to fight for basic care. Yet here it was, a story of heartbreak, injustice, and systemic failure. The news of Amara's death didn't stay hidden for long. Within days, the community was ablaze with anger, grief, and demands for answers. Parents shared her story on social media. Local news picked it up. "Denied care because of skin color." One headline screamed, "Hospital neglect leads to death of 9-year-old girl." Another read, "Activists and civil rights organizations call for accountability." Petitions flooded city officials. Demands for investigation into systemic racism in healthcare became impossible to ignore, and yet the cold machinery of bureaucracy tried to shift blame. Paperwork, waiting lists, and standard operating procedures. All the while, Amara's absence screamed louder than their excuses. Her story became a symbol of what too many families face in silence. Children like Amara, bright, innocent, full of life, whose only crime was the color of their skin, whose cries went unheard. Her mother sat in grief, staring at the empty bed, knowing no apology could bring her daughter back. But she also realized that her pain could ignite change, that her voice, her story, could pierce the walls that allowed this injustice to happen. It was not just a hospital failure. It was a systemic failure. And Amara's story became the rallying cry for parents, doctors, and citizens demanding that no child be ignored because of the color of their skin again. The city woke up to headlines that no one could ignore. 9-year-old denied care because she was black. Hospital under fire. Tragedy that could have been prevented sparks outrage. Amara's death had become more than a personal tragedy. It was now a mirror reflecting the failures of a healthcare system that claimed neutrality but operated on invisible biases. Her mother, still numb with grief, realized the fight had only just begun. She could not bring Amara back, but she could demand that no other child suffer the same fate. The truth, once hidden in polite nods and passive procedures, began to surface. Whistleblowers from inside St. Mark's Hospital came forward. Nurses admitted, anonymously, that patients of color were often deprioritized when beds and staff were limited. Policies that seemed neutral in the handbook were applied selectively in practice. Forms labeled triage were used not just for medical urgency, but subtly for social preference. One physician, speaking under the condition of anonymity, revealed, "It's unspoken. We all know some families get fast-tracked. It's not official, but it happens. And sometimes we all look away." The weight of the revelation hit like a hammer. It was systemic, not accidental. A child's life had been lost not to disease alone, but to prejudice embedded in everyday processes. News crews flooded the hospital. Cameras rolled as administrators tried to issue statements. "We regret the loss of life and are reviewing procedures," they said. But the community wasn't satisfied with vague condolences. They wanted justice, transparency, and accountability. Meanwhile, social media exploded. Hashtags like hashtag Justice for Amara, hashtag No Child Ignored, and hashtag Hospital Neglect trended nationwide. Parents shared stories of similar neglect, children denied care, and hospital bias. Viral posts circulated videos, recreations, and animations highlighting what happened to Amara, framing her not as a statistic, but as a living, breathing child whose cries were ignored. Amara's mother, speaking on a local news broadcast, barely held herself together. Tears streaked her face as she said, "She was my little girl. She deserved a chance. And now, because of who she was, because of the color of her skin, she's gone. But I will not stay silent. I will fight for her, and I will fight for every child like her." Her words ignited more than grief. They ignited movement. Community organizers held rallies outside St. Mark's Hospital. They carried signs with Amara's face, young and bright, as a symbol of what was at stake. Legal teams stepped in. Investigations revealed that multiple hospital policies disproportionately affected patients of color. Records were scrutinized. Staff interviews were conducted. Even the hospital's internal emails were made public. Evidence showed that not only had Amara been ignored, but there was a pattern of delayed care affecting black children in the same ward over the past 2 years. Public accountability grew. The hospital CEO faced a media storm. Board meetings were streamed live, and journalists demanded answers that could not be dismissed. Corporate apologies were issued, but the public demanded real consequences. Resignations, retraining oversight committees, and reforms in triage and patient care systems. And the moral resolution came, slowly but firmly. City officials implemented mandatory anti-bias training for all hospital staff, introduced independent oversight for pediatric care, and established emergency escalation protocols that could not be bypassed. Policy changes ensured that triage would be based solely on medical need, not social status or skin color. But even as reforms took place, the story of Amara, reminded everyone that change often comes after tragedy. Her mother's grief, her mother's courage, and the viral attention that followed transformed one heartbreaking loss into a catalyst for systemic change. After the storm, the hospital's lobby displayed a small plaque in memory of Amara, reading, "In memory of every child whose voice was unheard, may no cry go ignored again." The aftersting, the quiet echo of justice, was a truth that even when a system fails, people speaking out can force change. It was slow, it was painful, but it was real. Amara's story became a viral lesson on accountability, privilege, and the urgency of equity in healthcare. Parents, educators, activists, and medical professionals continue to share her story. It became part of seminars on systemic bias in hospitals, viral posts on social media, and lectures about empathy in medicine. Amara, though gone, had changed the system enough to save countless lives in the future. The story ends on a bittersweet note. Grief, yes, but also hope. Amara's name is remembered not as a tragedy alone, but as a force for change. Every reform inspired, every policy corrected, and every awareness raised is a tribute to her life and the fight for justice she never got to live to see herself.